Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome back to Formula Amateur, where today we'll be discussing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku, all of the craziness that went on in Formula 2 and Formula 1. So let's get into it, shall we? So we'll start off with Formula 2, and as Formula 3 has ended its season for 2025, we won't talk about Formula 3 unless something big crops up. Apart from that, the big news is that there has been 2 driver changes. The Trident team has parted ways with Sami Magatunev and Max Esterson, so they will no longer appear in my results in my data, apart from any time that we would discuss all of the races in a big project way. But we will start off with the practice session, where in 20 seconds, in 22nd position we had Shields with 15 laps. In 21st we had Van Hopen, who is one of the new drivers for Trident. He had 15 laps. In 20th we had Marty with 13 laps. In 19th we had Montoya with 15 laps. In 18th we had Cordeal with 15 laps. In 17th we had Lindblad with 10 laps. In 16th we had Bennett with 14 laps. In 15th we had Stenshorn, who is also the other F3 driver who went into the Trident team in Formula 2, and he did 15 laps. In 14th we had Dirksen with 15 laps. In 13th we had Fornaroli with 15 laps. In 12th we had Stanek with 14 laps. In 11th we have Miney with 15 laps. In 10th we had Vashaw with 15 laps. In 9th we had Mayata with 15 laps. In 8th we have Goethe with 15 laps. In 7th we had Mini with 15 laps. In 6th we had Martins with 13 laps. In 5th we had Villagomez with 14 laps. In 4th we had Browning with 15 laps. In 3rd we had Boganovic with 15 laps. In 2nd we had Crawford with 15 laps, and in 1st we had Dunn with 14 laps. So let's move on to how the sprint was shaping up to look in terms of the starting grid. So the starting grid for the sprint race in Baku looked like this. In 22nd we had Cordeal. In 21st we had Shields. In 20th we had Van Hopen. In 19th we had Mayata. In 18th we had Goethe. In 17th we had Lindblad. In 16th we had Miney. In 13th we had Bennett. In 14th we had Dirksen. In 13th we had Martins. In 12th we had Stanek. In 11th we had Vashaw. In 10th we had Crawford. In 9th we had Fornaroli. In 8th we had Mini. In 7th we had Dunn. In 6th we had Browning. In 5th we had Marty. In 4th we had Montoya. In 3rd we had Stenshorn. In 2nd we had Boganovic. And in 1st we had Villagomez. So now let's talk about how the sprint race panned out. So where did everyone end up finishing in the sprint race? In 22nd we had Goethe, who dropped 4 places as a result of him crashing. In 21st we had Villagomez, who also crashed, and he dropped 20 places. In 20th we had Marty, who had a DNF and dropped 15 places. In 19th we had Miney, who had a DNF and dropped 3 places. In 18th we had Stenshorn, who had a DNF and dropped 15 places. In 17th we had Van Hopen, who gained 3 places. In 16th we had Cordeal, who gained 6 places. Van Hopen gained 3 places. In 15th we had Montoya, who lost 10 places. In 14th we had Shields, who gained 7 places. In 13th we had Bennett, who gained 2 places. In 12th we had Mayata, who gained 7 places. In 11th we had Stanek, who gained 1 place. In 10th we had Lindblad, who gained 7 places. In 9th we had Dirksen, who gained 5 places. In 8th we had Martins, who gained 5 places. In 7th we had Mini, who gained 1 place. In 6th we had Vashaw, who gained 5 places. In 5th we had Fornaroli, who gained 4 places. In 4th we had Crawford, who gained 6 places. In 3rd we had Dunn, who gained 4 places. In 2nd we had Browning, who gained 4 places. And in 1st we had Boganovic, who gained 1 place. A lot of the DNFs were as a result of just the this track is crazy when it comes to red flags, and there are certain areas where there are 90-degree turns, there's a lot of walls around, there's a lot of craziness going on, so a lot of crashing happened. Stanek crashed into Villagomez when he lost his position, and he drove into an exit road, and as he was backing out he didn't realise Villagomez was there, so he got a penalty for causing a collision and took himself and Villagomez out of the race. Stenshorn, he had an electronics failure, and Goethe, Marty and Miney, Goethe and Marty crashed with each other, I believe, and then Miney was also somewhere involved. It was so much craziness that there was so much craziness going on that it's kind of hard to remember all of this, because it all just sort of happened. It was red flags galore all throughout the entire weekend across both Formula 2 and Formula 1. So let's get on to where they actually qualified for the race. So in general qualifying, how did it look? Well, in 22nd it was Cordial, who dropped 4 places in comparison to where he was in practice. In 21st we had Shields, who gained 1 position. In 20th we had Van Hoopen, who gained 1 position. In 19th we had Mayata, who dropped 10 positions. In 18th we had Goethe, who also dropped 10 positions. In 17th we had Lindblad, who stayed where he was. In 16th we had Miney, who dropped 5 positions. In 15th we had Bennett, who gained 1 position, but he did crash in qualifying. In 14th we had Dirksen, who stayed where he was. In 13th we had Martins, who dropped 7 positions but also had a crash. In 12th we had Stanek, who crashed and was but stayed in the same place where he was in practice. And then in 11th we had Vashaw, who dropped 1 position. In 10th we had Villagomez, who dropped 5 positions. In 9th we had Bogdanovic, who dropped 6 positions. In 8th we had Stenshorn, who gained 5 positions. In 7th we have Montoya, who gained 12 positions. In 6th we had Marty, who gained 14 positions. In 5th we had Browning, who dropped 1 position. In 14th we have Dunn, who dropped 3 positions. In 3rd we have Mini, who gained 4 positions. In 2nd we have Fornaroli, who gained 11 positions. And in 1st we have Crawford, who gained 1 position. And just to reiterate how crashy it all was, we had 3 crashes during qualifying itself, and it just gets crashier and crashier from then on. So now let's get into the race results. So in 22nd we had Stenshorn, who crashed, which it was devastating considering he, for a first outing, for a debut in Formula 2, he was doing an amazing job, but he crashed into a wall and therefore dropped 14 positions down to 22nd. In 21st we have Dunn, who also had a crash and dropped 17 positions. In 20th we had Miney, who dropped 4 positions, he also crashed. In 19th we had Browning, who dropped 14 positions. Not sure what was happening there, but he was just having a lot of issues throughout the race and therefore finished last of the complete finishers. In 18th we have Shields, who gained 3 positions. In 17th we had Van Hoopen, who gained 3 positions. In 16th we had Cordial, who gained 6 positions. In 15th we had Martins, who dropped 2 positions. In 14th we had Bennett, who gained 1 position. In 13th we had Stanek, who dropped 1 position. In 12th we had Goethe, who gained 6 positions. In 11th we had Miata, who gained 8 positions. In 10th we had Montoya, who dropped 3 positions. In 9th we have Vashaw, who gained 2 positions. In 8th we have Villagomez, who gained 2 positions. In 7th we had Lindblad, who gained 10 positions. In 6th we had Marty, who stayed in 6th. In 5th we have Fornaroli, who had a 10-second penalty, so he would have finished 3rd, but he dropped 3 positions as well as a result of him crashing with Dunn, I believe, and as a result got the penalty. And then in 4th position we have Mini, who dropped 1 position. In 3rd we have Bogdanovic, who gained 6 positions. In 2nd we have Dirksen, who gained 12 positions. And in 1st we have Crawford, who stayed in first. So now let's talk about the Formula 2 standings as of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So in 24th position we have Martinius Stenshoorn, and in 23rd we have Lawrence van Hoopen, but this is their first race, so they are allowed to be at the very bottom, especially considering the weekend that Stenshoorn had, where he qualified well, but in both races it just didn't go the way it should have done for him. And then in 22nd we have Shields with 0. We have Max Esterson, who is no longer driving in Formula 2, he's in 21st. Then we have Bennett in 20th with 1 point, Megatunif with 2 points, he's also no longer driving, as Stenshoorn and Van Hoopen replaced Esterson and Megatunif. In 18th we have Cordial with 3 points. In 17th we have Goethe with 23 points. Then we have Mayata in 16th with 25 points, Miney in 15th with 26 points, Villa Gomez in 14th with 27 points, Mini in 13th with 57 points, in 12th we have Dirksen with 66 points, in 11th we have Martins with 70 points, in 10th we have Montoya with 75 points, in 9th we have Stanek with 81 points, in 8th we have Beganovic with 96 points, in 7th we have Lindblad with 107 points, in 6th we have Marti with 120 points, in 5th we have Dunn with 130 points, in 4th we have Vashaw with 149 points, in 3rd we have Browning with 161 points, in 2nd we have Crawford with 169 points, and then Fornaroli with 188 points tops of the drivers' standings. So let's get into Formula 1. So now let's talk about Formula 1, and let's start with first practice. And in 20th position we had Gasly with 17 laps, in 19th we had Colapinto with 14 laps, in 18th we had Ocon with 15 laps, in 17th we had Stroll with 15 laps, in 16th we had Behrman with 17 laps, in 15th we had Alonso with 15 laps, in 14th we had Bortoleto with 18 laps, in 13th we had Hamilton with 14 laps, in 12th we had Hulkenberg with 18 laps, in 11th we had Antonelli with 17 laps, in 10th we had Hadjar with 17 laps, in 9th we had Lawson with 17 laps, then we had Sainz in 8th with 17 laps, then we had Verstappen in 7th with 15 laps, in 6th we had Tsunoda with 16 laps, in 5th we had Albon with 17 laps, in 4th we had Russell with 16 laps, in 3rd we have Leclerc with 17 laps, in 2nd we have Piastri with 14 laps, and in 1st we have Norris with 19 laps. And throughout all of FP1 there has only been a bunch of yellow flags, no red flags, until it gets into qualifying, and then we'll get into a record-breaking qualifying session. On to FP2 now, where in 20th we had Colapinto, who did 22 laps and dropped to 1 position. In 19th we have Alonso with 24 laps and dropped 4 positions. In 18th we have Hulkenberg, who did 22 laps and dropped 6 positions. In 17th we have Stroll, who did 24 laps and stayed in 17th. In 16th we have Gasly, who did 22 laps and gained 4 positions. In 15th we have Bortoleto, who did 22 laps and dropped to 1 position. In 14th we have Tsunoda, who had 22 laps and dropped 8 positions. In 13th we have Hadjar with 23 laps and he dropped 3 positions. In 12th we have Piastri, who did 23 laps and dropped 10 positions. In 11th we have Sainz with 24 laps and dropped 3 positions. In 10th we have Norris, who did 7 laps as a result of him having a crash against a wall. Wasn't too bad in terms of the level of crashes we see later on, but he could not continue. He dropped 9 positions. In 9th we had Albon with 24 laps, he dropped 4 positions. In 8th we have Ocon with 23 laps, he gained 10 positions. In 7th we have Lawson with 22 laps, he gained 2 positions. In 6th we have Verstappen with 22 laps, he gained 1 position. In 5th we have Behrman with 23 laps, he gained 11 positions. In 4th we have Antonelli with 22 laps, he gained 7 positions. In 3rd we have Russell with 19 laps, he gained 1 position. In 2nd we have Leclerc with 23 laps, he gained 1 position. And in 1st we have Hamilton with 21 laps and he gained 12 12 positions. And as during this practice session, it was all just a bunch of yellow flags as well. And now on to FP3, where we have in 20th Stroll with 17 laps, he dropped 5 positions. In 19th we have Gasly with 21 laps, he dropped 3 positions. In 18th we have Bortoleto with 16 laps, he dropped 3 positions. In 17th we have Ocon with 20 laps, he dropped 9 positions. In 16th we have Tsunoda, who did 18 laps and dropped 2 positions. In 15th we have Colapinto with 19 laps, he gained 5 positions. In 14th we have Alonso with 17 laps, he gained 5 positions. In 13th we have Sainz with 17 laps, he dropped 2 positions. In 12th we have Hülkenberg with 17 laps, he gained 6 positions. In 11th we have Hadjar with 22 laps, he gained 2 positions. In 10th we have Leclerc with 19 laps, he dropped 8 positions. In 9th we have Lawson with 21 laps, he dropped 2 positions. In 8th we have Behrman with 23 laps, he dropped 3 positions. In 7th we have Albon with 19 laps, he gained 2 positions. In 6th we have Russell with 17 laps, he dropped 3 positions. In 5th we have Antonelli with 17 laps, he dropped 1 position. In 4th we have Hamilton with 18 laps, he dropped 3 positions. In 3rd we have Piastri with 21 laps, he gained 9 positions. In 2nd we have Verstappen with 19 laps, he gained 4 positions. And in 1st we have Norris with 19 laps and he gained 9 positions. On to quali now, where there were 6 red flags. This broke the record for the most red flags in a qualifying session, with the first one landing with Alex Albon, who crashed near the beginning of Q1. So he qualified 20th but started the race in 19th, which we'll discuss later. In 19th we had Gasly, who qualified 19th but started 18th, but as a result of where he qualified, he technically stayed in the same place to where he was in F3. And then in 18th we have Ocon, who dropped 1 position into 18th, but he started 20th, and this was a very brief later, but Ocon was disqualified from his quali results as a result of there being an issue with his rear wing. There was a production issue where it just didn't suit the standards required, and as a result his rear wing failed scrutineering and he was disqualified and had to start 20th. So he dropped 1 position, whereas Albon, who qualified 20th, started 19th due to Ocon being disqualified from his qualifying result, but he was still allowed to race, and Albon lost 13 positions in comparison to Ocon's 1 position before the penalty took place. And then in 17th we have Hülkenberg, who also crashed but managed to recover as a result of him only damaging his front wing, which and having his floor inspected and quickly worked upon to fix, but unfortunately it did not gain him any speed as a result of all the damage already there, and as a result he did only managed to qualify in 17th, and he dropped 5 positions. Then in 16th we have Colapinto, who dropped 1 position, but also he crashed as a result of well, we don't know what the result was, but he crashed right as soon as the clock hit 0, and at the same time when Gasly also did a little spin around. So both Alpines were out in Q1, and as I said, he dropped 1 position into 16th. And then in 15th we have Behrman, who, guess what, crashed. He dropped 7 positions. And then in 14th we have Stroll, who gained 6 positions. In 13th we have Bortoleto, who gained 5 positions. In 12th we have Hamilton, who dropped 8 positions. In 11th we have Alonso, who gained 3 positions. And then in 10th, in Q3, the first one out was Leclerc, who, surprise surprise, crashed and stayed in the same position where he was in FP3. And then in 9th we have Piastri, who crashed and dropped 6 positions. And then in 8th we have Hadjar, who gained 3 positions. Then in 7th we have Norris, who could not improve following all these red flags and dropped 6 positions. In 6th we have Tsunoda, who gained 10 positions. In 5th we have Russell, who gained 1 position. In 4th we have Antonelli, who gained 1 position. In 3rd we have Lawson, who gained 6 positions. In 2nd we have Sainz, who gained 11 positions, and Verstappen, who gained 1 position and qualified first. So now let's see how the race panned out. So now the race results may be a little bit surprising. So in 20th we have Oscar Piastri, as a result of the fact that, well, first of all, nightmare of a weekend for him. He jump started when the lights were going off, which caused Fernando Alonso to slightly jump and move before he was allowed to, and he got a 5-second penalty for that. And Piastri would have gotten a 5-second penalty as well if it wasn't for the fact that later on in the very first lap, after hitting anti-stall, he couldn't get the car to start in time, and as a result lost a lot of time and basically started the race in 20th. And then in turns 5 and 6 he crashed into a wall, and that was his race over and done with within the space of maybe 30 seconds. So it was a lot of drama, and he lost 11 places as a result. And then in 19th we have Colapinto, who dropped 3 positions. He had a little tapping with Albon, and Albon received a 10-second penalty for that, but he did not serve it at the pit stop as a result of the fact that he already did 2 pit stops and did not need to have another one, so the time was just added to his race result instead. And then Gasly in 18th, he gained 1 position. In 17th we have Stroll, who dropped 3 positions. In 16th we have Hülkenberg, who gained 1 position. In 15th we have Alonso, who dropped 4 positions. In 14th we have Ocon, who gained 4 positions. In 13th we have Albon, who gained 7 positions. In 12th we have Behrman, who gained 3 positions. In 11th we have Bortoleto, who gained 2 positions. In 10th we have Hadjar, who dropped 2 positions. In 9th we have Leclerc, who gained 1 position. In 8th we have Hamilton, who gained 4 positions. In 7th we have Norris, who stayed in 7th. In 6th we have Tsunoda, who stayed in 6th. In 5th we have Lawson, who dropped 2 positions. In 4th we have Antonelli, who stayed in 4th. In 3rd we have Sainz, his first ever podium as the smooth operator in Williams. He had quite a few podiums in Ferrari, but this is the first time in his new team. He dropped 1 position. And then in 2nd we have Russell, who gained 3 positions, and Verstappen won the race and stayed where he began, in 1st. So now let's talk a little bit about all the other stuff, aka the standings and a new addition, driver of the day, because it only hit me during this weekend that I haven't really spoken about who got the Salesforce driver of the day, but we'll talk about it. So let's get into the side stuff with the driver of the day, which was Carlos Sainz, for being able to provide Williams with their first podium since 2021, where the last person to do so was George Russell, and it was an amazing achievement. And I must say, I think that unicorn sticker he put on the back of his helmet had to be performing a lot of magic to steer him along the way. Not that he's not a talented driver, but you know that it's a sort of like memento that you just have to keep, don't you? And now let's get into the driver's standing. So in first, although he did not get any points this race, in first position it was Piastri, and he still has 324 points, followed by Norris with 299, and that is a difference of 25 points, followed by Verstappen, who has 255, that's a difference of 44 points to Norris. In fourth we have Russell with 212, that's a 43 points difference to Verstappen. In fifth we have Leclerc with 165, that's a 47 points difference to Russell. In sixth we have Hamilton with 121, that's a 44 points difference to Leclerc. In seventh we have Antonelli with 78 points, that's a 43 points difference to Hamilton. In eighth we have Albon with 70 points, that's an 8 points difference to Antonelli. In ninth we we have Hadjar with 39 points. That's a 31 points difference to Albon. In 10th we have Hulkenberg with 37 points. That's a 2 points difference to Hadjar. In 11th we have Stroll with 32 points. That's a 5 points difference to Hulkenberg. In 12th we have Sainz with 31 points. That's a 1 points difference to Stroll. In 13th we have Lawson with 30 points. That's a 1 points difference to Sainz. In 14th we have Alonso with 30 points. That's no points difference to Lawson. In 15th we have Ocon with 28 points. That's a 2 points difference to Alonso. In 16th we have Gasly with 20 points. That's an 8 points difference to Ocon. In 17th we have Tsunoda with 20 points, and that's no difference to Gasly. In 18th we have Bortoleto with 18 points, and that's 2 points difference to Tsunoda. In 19th we have Behrman with 16 points. That's a 2 points difference to Bortoleto. In 20th we have Colapinto with 0 points. That's a 16 points difference to Behrman. And as with so many of these races ever since Miami, Doohan in 21st position with 0 points, and that makes no difference to Colapinto. Now let's get into the teams. So as per usual, McLaren are still top of their game in first with 623 points, and now Mercedes has taken the second spot with 290 points. That's a 333 points difference to McLaren. And then in third we have Ferrari with 286 points. That's a 4 points difference to Mercedes. In fourth we have Red Bull Racing, which has 272 points. That's a 14 points difference to Ferrari. In fifth we have Williams, who have crossed the 100 points border with 101 points, and that's 171 points difference to Red Bull. In sixth we have Racing Bulls with 72 points. That's a 29 points difference to Williams. In seventh we have Aston Martin with 62 points. That's a 10 points difference to Racing Bulls. In eighth we have Kik Sauber with 55 points. That's a 7 points difference to Aston Martin. In ninth we have Haas with 44 points. That's an 11 points difference to Kik Sauber. And in 10th we have Alpine, who are still on 20 points, and they have a points difference of 24 to Haas. So that was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I've realised that I haven't gone through the teams for Formula 2, so let's quickly discuss that while I still have it on my mind. So in 11th position we have Trident with 2 points. In 10th we have Van Amersfoort Racing with 28 points. In 9th we have AIX Racing with 66 points. In 8th we have Art Grand Prix with 95 points. In 7th we have Prima Racing with 132 points, and then Rodin in 6th, Rodin Motorsport with 133 points. In 5th we have MP Motorsport with 172 points. In 4th we have Dams Lucas Oil with 195 points. In 3rd we have Campos Racing with 227 points. In 2nd we have Hightech TGR with 257 points, and in 1st we have Invicta Racing with 269. So that is all for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix 2025. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Formula Amateur. Today we discussed the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. We covered Formula 2 and Formula 1. The next race rundown will be the Singapore race rundown in 2 weeks' time, as we do not have a race next weekend, so keep an eye out for that one. But don't forget that we also have an episode every Saturday where I pick a topic and I talk about it that relates to the motorsport category of Formula 1 racing and its support categories. Don't forget to check out my lovely colleagues on the Be The Change Media Network. Don't forget to check out our website, bethechangemedianetwork.com. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I'll see you on Saturday. Goodbye.